it's Liz Yuille from Old Stables Crafts. Thank you very much for joining me again today. Today's project is this one. This uses the Tropical Escape, brain dangerous, Tropical Escape suite, which you will find on page 120 to 121. So it's this amazing designer series paper, which I will show you closer shortly. There's the textured weave ribbon, specifically the Granny Apple Green, although the grey granite is beautiful as well. Tropical elements, thinlet dies, and obviously the stamp set. So, and the thinlets are also back here on page 221. And that just shows you them in a different sort of way, really. It's a bundle, so if you were to buy the stamps and the dies together, you use this code up in the top here, and you save 10% on the combined cost, which is always good news. And there's a matching cardstock pack, obviously, because there always is with a suite. So let me show you the paper a little closer too. Some of it I have cut because obviously I've used a piece in the background here, but I have actually, let's have a look at this. So can you see that I've got this lovely stripe in the background, but here, oh sorry, there's the mat, and then here inside there's a different pattern. It's actually the same piece of paper, I've just cut it and put it back in. So let's start by looking at the papers. So there are the two that this is the one I've used, which has this on the reverse, and this is the one I'm going to use on the project that I show you now, and this is the reverse. So they're the same sort of idea, but we have lovely soft green. Now let me get you the colours. They are, you'd think I'd have written it down somewhere, but hey, fortunately if I look at the designer series paper back here, it will tell me. So it's basic black, blushing bride, granny apple green, shaded spruce, and whisper white. So really nice zingy colours with a bit of pastel thrown in for good measure. So we've got this nice cool kind of leaf pattern with big bold leaves, and then sort of ferns on a white background with this lovely, it's almost like a barcode in blushing bride. Another leaf and blushing bride flowers, and then this is the same pattern that we saw earlier but in a different colourway, and then with a much bolder pattern on the reverse, and this is the same pattern as this but obviously in a different colourway, and then dots on the reverse, nice just plain black and white with a sort of self stripe, and leaves. I want to say, no, it looked almost as if that was Blushing Bride in the background, but I don't think it is. A lovely bold black with Blushing Bride, really nice zingy dots, and that same barcode. My brain is gone. It's 30 degrees in my room. I've got all the windows open, I've got all the doors open, I've got a fan going, and it's still 30 degrees. So forgive me if my brain is not quite as good as it normally is, bearing in mind it's normally not great. So barcode on one side and the dots on the other, then leaves and more, and again this is the that lovely cool stripe, but this time in Granny Apple Green, and this I think is divine. It's probably my favourite just because it's a really nice soft texture. Oh, well, it's like a watercolour wash, really. So let's get started. So I'm going to use the same Blushing Bride card base. I very carefully put everything I need inside, although some of it I'm going to show you how I've done. So Blushing Bride card base, it's half a sheet of A4 cut in half and scored down the middle. I've got a piece of the designer series paper cut up my usual first size mat. Dimensions will all be in the blog post, which is linked immediately below. So it's this stripe on one side and just the dots on the other. I've got a scrap of Whisper White for stamping the sentiment. I've already stamped this, but I will be showing you how to do it. And then I've already die cut out of shaded spruce these kind of ferny things, and then I've got a piece of Granny Apple Green, which is slightly different by normal size. It's 5 1/4 by 3 1/2, but again the dimensions will be on my blog post and I'll put those in metric as well. And then a piece of the Granny Apple Green ribbon. So first things first, we need to cut this out of there. Now I don't know how well you can see because I've had to keep the blinds closed because it's incredibly sunny and there'd be this amazing just brightness. So I don't know if you can see, I've got this embossed image round the side. But the first thing I need to do is cut that that piece out of the middle. So let me grab my magnetic base plate and a cutting board and very carefully set up my other cutting plate for the embossing, which is perhaps not the most sensible thing to do, but anyway, there we go. So that just pops in the middle there, and as I say, this is the magnetic base plate, and I'm just putting it so it's kind of in that, it's got an even border round the 3 sides that are at the top there, and I'm just going to run that straight through the big shot. So bear with me while I do that. Now, while I'm doing it, do remember that we currently have 2 amazing offers. Firstly, the Designer Series paper buy 3 get your 4th free offer, which includes the Tropical Escape suite or Designer Series paper. So let me just bring that in just to get rid of these bits. So yes, this is one of the papers that is included. It's basically, other than the what I call the colour family papers, it's all of the ordinary, as in not specialty, Designer Series papers. So it's the Abstract Garden Impressions, the Wood Textures, and the Tropical Escape 6x6, and then the others are the 12x12s, but not the specialty ones. So it's a brilliant deal. There's Christmas in there, there's kids in there, all sorts. So now is the moment to stock up. So either get 3, get 8, or get 12. Why wouldn't you? If you think you're going to need the paper, now's the moment to get it. And I've been saying to all my customers, this is the perfect time to get that paper that you're not quite sure about, because it's going to be free. Right, so I'm going to pop this, which is the largest of the layering, the square layering dies, but it's the scallop. I'm going to pop that round the frame piece. So I've got my ordinary base plate and the embossing kit. So there's an embossing mat, 2 rubber mats, this is the thinner blue one, and then you just need 1 cutting plate. Now the sandwich on the packet says put everything the other way up. I'm not convinced that card knows which way it is, so I'm not bothering because I like to see what I'm doing. So I'm doing it this way and it's working fine. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. So I'm putting embossing plate, the blue mat, the card, the die, and then a cutting plate, and this is all on the standard platform. So I'll just feed that through, and it goes through really easily. It's almost as if there's no resistance at all. And when you take it off, as if by magic, it is embossed. I don't know if you probably see it better on the other side, but you can see it's pushed in, because this is soft, it's just pushed in rather than actually cutting. So marvellous, and it's really not terribly expensive. But it means that all your normal cutting dies become embossed dies, and it also does a much better finish on the dies that are meant to be embossed. So brilliant. Right, okay, so the next thing that I would die cut, if I hadn't already done it, is the leaf. So I've got shaded spruce, and I'm just going to ink up this leaf. Now, one of my customers has suggested that I actually let you know which block I'm using. It's an old-fashioned concept, but probably a very good one. So this is my C block, and I'm just going to tap that make sure it's got a good cover, which it has, and then just hold it down for a count of about 3, and there we go. So, and as I say, I've already die cut that. You can actually see that it stamps much darker to begin with, and then when it dries it fades back. So that would be the next thing I would do. I will clean that later because I don't need it anymore, and I've also, as I say, die cut in shaded spruce those. So, oh, I needed this, don't I? So I now need to just stamp my thank you, and then I will show you how I put the whole thing together. So I'm going to pop this sort of towards the end. Now, this looks as if it's bigger than the piece of card, but remember that there is a surround on red rubber stamps, so it's fine. And this is my little baby G block. So it's that really narrow, thin one. So there we are, there's the thank you. And it fits perfectly on that little sliver. And this is just an offcut from when I cut my mats. So waste not, want not. Right, okay, so this is going to go on here, but I want a different pattern to show through. So all I have done is taken a pencil and I have drawn where I can see around the die cut image like that. So I'm then going to bring over my trimmer, and I need to make sure that my piece of paper to go underneath that is slightly bigger than the square I've just drawn. So what I'm going to do is make sure you can see for a start. So if I were to line that up there, which is where that line is, it's going to be about 3/4 of an inch, roughly. So long as I go slightly bigger than that, or smaller, as it were, it's going to be fine. So I'm going to go, this is where I'm going to switch between measurements. I'm going to go at 1.5 centimetres. Actually, no, I'm going to go a bit bigger. I'm going to go at half an inch. So I then need to make sure that I know what half an inch is in metric, because this is only in metric. So it is 1.2 centimetres or thereabouts. So I can put the little arrow there at 1.2 centimetres and come down. This is where my line is, and then go 1.2 centimetres past that, and then just turn it, line it up again and come down. So I'm 1.2 centimetres past. Is that right? No, I want to be 1.2 centimetres up from the bottom. It's when I've got a brain, it really is dangerous, isn't it? And then 1.2 centimetres or half an inch. And 1.2 centimetres to there. And then 1.2 centimetres or half an inch to there. And that's it. Now hopefully I've got that right. I'm not convinced. Fingers crossed. Right. Okay, so let's try it, shall we? And see what happens. So if I line that on top of there, yay, it works! Love it when a plan comes together. Okay, so I wouldn't normally use multi-purpose adhesive on designer series paper, but because most of it's going to be covered up, it's fine, and it's kind of easier to get everything to be flat. And the reason I wouldn't normally use multi-purpose adhesive for designer series paper is purely because moisture and paper is not a great mix. So it can make it just a little bit wibbly, but as we're covering the vast majority of it up, it doesn't matter. So long as you don't go mad with your multi-purpose adhesive, it's fine. So this I'm then going to add into the middle, because I know that that's where my spare piece is going to go, and then turn it over and pop it back into its hole. and as if by magic, it fits. So, right, okay, the next thing to do really is to just build all this up. So I've got my thank you, get my snips and just cut that at a jaunty angle. Don't need that bit, just trim that off. I may need to trim a bit more, but that's fine. So a bit of tear and tape for the back of the ribbon. And I don't want it to go all the way to the ends, just a bit is fine. And I would grab your brayer and just make sure that that is really well stuck down so that you can then pull off the top layer and just pop that on your carton about there, and it's going to stick over the edges a bit, which is absolutely what I want. The next thing to go down is that I think I'll trim it down a wee bit more, not a huge amount more, but a bit. And to just not have the risk of any of it sticking out. So I'll just trim a jaunty angle like that. Yes, that will do. And again, I'm just going to pop a piece of tear and tape on the back of that. You could use glue dots or tape runner, but tear and tape's out, so I'll use the tear and tape. And then I'll pop that kind of there, and then I want my ferns, so just pop a bit of multi-purpose on the back, and it's really just so there's something to stick it down. We are going to put one of the big leaves over the top, so it's just to kind of have something to hold it in place in the meantime. And then this one I'm going to just rip to pieces because I want a shorter piece. And oh, I know, I meant to also tell you about the other joining offer, which, sorry, or the joining offer. So we've got the designer series paper for customers, and if you are thinking about either putting in a big order or joining, now is a brilliant time to do that, because I'm just going to add some adhesive to the back of this, because if you buy the starter kit in July, you not only get your £130 of product as you would normally expect to get, but you get to choose a full set of ink pads. Well, I say a full set, one of the ink pad families. So 10 ink pads for free. Now, if you were to buy them individually, that would be £70. If you buy them as a bundle of the whole of the Subtles and the whole of the Regals, what have you, then it's £63. So if we'll be modest on this, we'll say it's £63 of value. Tropical elements, one of the little leaves, leaf buttons, and linen thread. So yes, if you were to buy the bundle of one of the colour families, it would be £63. So you get £130 of product. I'm just running this through to straighten out the kinks. Just run it through with my bone folder. £130 of products for £99 is the standard, hardly standard, but standard joining offer, plus a business pack. And then you now get £130 plus your ink pads, £63, free P&P, £4.95. So we're looking at over £200 of value for a mere £99, delivered free to your door. And you would then have until the end of January, for crying out loud, to hit your first quarter's minimum, because we give you a quarter for gratis, so you don't have to worry about that. And then after that, you just hit your first quarter's minimum by the end of January, and you're good to go. If you don't hit your first quarter's minimum, you drop. You keep everything that you've had at the discount that you've had it, and that's that. So it's a no pressure. If you want to sell, you can sell. If you don't want to sell and you just want to buy for yourself at a discount, that's fine too. So it's really, if you've got a big order, it's a no-brainer. I'm just going to pop a glue dot on the back of this. And so yes, lots of information on that over on my blog, which, as I say, is linked immediately below. If you go to the current offers or the joining pages, you'll find lots of information on those. Right, okay, so let's pop some dimensionals on the back. And then we're done. So really, I mean, not a difficult card. Actually, I'll use some edge pieces there. Not a difficult card, but a really pretty, zingy card that you can really send to anyone. Great for a man. Maybe change out the blushing bride, because he may not appreciate blushing bride. But you could change that out for maybe shaded spruce, and you're good to go. So let's just trim some of these edge pieces. Right, okay. One more up here. And, ooh, lots of banging of doors going on outside. Heaven knows what that's all about. We've had our post. Right, now I do want some mini dimensionals, which I have here, because the standard size dimensionals are just a wee bit large for the backs of this, and I do want to make sure that some of the middle is supported, because otherwise this could sort of sink back. But this is really just a precaution, it's not a necessity. Bring this in for my bits. This is just a little pot from IKEA. Little metal pot from IKEA. I have a pink one and a blue one. The blue one is for things that can go in our recycling bin, and the pink one is for things that can't. Because under my desk I have exactly the same colour coding for my recycling and my non-recycled rubbish. So because I am a bear of very little brain, I keep the same colours for on my desk. But it does mean that rather than having to try and pop things on the floor and missing, particularly as I stand to craft, there is some hope that I might actually hit the bin. Right, so hover that over the top, press it all down, and we're good to go. Now obviously it would need a lining, but yeah, I think those are really pretty. I only got this morning. I had my delivery actually lunchtime. That's my time, obviously, not your time. Anyway, 22 minutes is probably 22 minutes too long. So that's enough waffle from me. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you've got any comments, please leave those below. I do get around to answering them eventually. It seems to be taking me about a week at the moment, which for many apologies on that one. But that would be lovely if you've got any comments. If you want any supplies, I would be delighted if you chose to shop with me. There's a shop link below. You'll find the link to my blog post, which has got all the information about the dimensions and stuff. Then there's my social media link, and in there is a shop link. And there's a shop link over on my blog anyway. So thank you very much indeed for joining me, and I will look forward to speaking to you again very soon. Bye!